have passed their prime, I say, congratulate yourselves that you have been happy during the greater part of your days. Remember that your life of sorrow will not last long, and be comforted by the glory of those who are gone. For the love of honour alone is ever young, and not riches, as some say, but honour is the delight of men when they are old and useless. The passage perhaps represents what we may call the typical attitude of the Greek. To seek consolation for death, if anywhere, then in life, and in life not as it might be imagined beyond the grave, but as it had been and would be lived on earth, appears to be consonant with all that we know of the clear and objective temper of the race. It is the spirit which was noted long ago by Goethe as inspiring the sepulchral monuments of Athens. "The wind," he says, "which blows from the tombs of the ancients, comes with gentle breath as over a mound of roses. The reliefs are touching and pathetic, and always represent life. There stand father and mother, their son between them, gazing at one another with unspeakable truth to nature. Here a pair clasp hands. Here a father seems to rest on his couch and wait to be entertained by his family. To me the presence of these scenes was very touching. Their art is of a late period, yet are they simple, natural, and of universal interest. Here there is no knight in harness on his knees, awaiting a joyful resurrection. The artist has with more or less skill presented to us only the persons themselves, and so made their existence lasting and perpetual. They fold not their hands, gaze not into heaven, they are on earth, what they were and what they are. They stand side by side, take interest in one another, and that is what is in the stone, even though somewhat unskilfully, yet most pleasingly depicted." As a further illustration of the same point, an epitaph may be quoted equally striking for its simple human feeling, and for its absence of any suggestion of a continuance of the life of the dead. "Farewell" is the first and last word, no hint of a joyful resurrection. "Farewell, tomb of Melite, the best of women lies here, who loved her loving husband Onesimus. Thou wert most excellent, wherefore he longs for thee after thy death, for thou wert the best of wives. Farewell, thou too, dearest husband, only love my children." But however characteristic this attitude of the Greeks may appear to be, especially by contrast with the Christian view, it would be a mistake to suppose that it was the only one with which they were acquainted, or that they had put aside altogether as indifferent or insoluble the whole problem of a future world. As we have seen, they did believe in the survival of the spirit, and in a world of shades ruled by Pluto and Persephone. They had legends of a place of bliss for the good, and a place of torment for the wicked. And if this conception did not haunt their mind, as it haunted that of the mediaeval Christian, yet at times it was certainly present to them, with terror or with hope. That the Greek was not unacquainted with the fear of hell, we know from the passage of Plato, part of which we have already quoted, where in speaking of the mendicant prophets who professed to make atonement for sin, he says that their ministrations are equally at the service of the living and the dead. The latter they call mysteries, and they redeem us from the pains of hell. But if we neglect them, no one knows what awaits us. And on the other hand, we hear as early as the date of the Odyssey of the Elysian fields reserved for the souls of the favourites of the gods. The Greeks, then, were not without hope and fear concerning the world to come, however little these feelings may have coloured their daily life. And there was one phase of their religion which appears to have been specially occupied with this theme. In almost every Greek city we hear of mysteries, the most celebrated being, of course, those of Eleusis in Attica. What exactly these mysteries were, we are very imperfectly informed, but so much at least is clear that by means of a scenic symbolism, representing the myth of Demeter and Kore, or of Dionysus Zagreus, hopes were held out to the initiated not only of a happy life on earth, but of a happy immortality beyond. "Blessed," says Pindar, "blessed is he who has seen these things before he goes under the hollow earth. He knows the end of life, and he knows its God-given origin." And it is presumably to the initiated that the same poet promises the joys of his thoroughly Greek heaven. "For them," he says, "shineth below the strength of the sun, while in our world it is night, and the space of crimson flowered meadows before their city is full of the shade of frankincense trees, and of fruits of gold; and some in horses, and in bodily feats, and some in dice, and some in harp playing have delight; and among them thriveth all fair flowering bliss, and fragrance streameth ever through the lovely land, as they mingle incense of every kind upon the altars of the gods." The Greeks, then, were not unfamiliar with the conception of heaven and hell, only, and that is the point to which we must return, and on which we must insist, the conception did not dominate and obsess their mind. They may have had their spasms of terror, but these they could easily relieve by the performance of some atoning ceremony. They may have had their thrills of hope, but these they would only indulge at the crisis of some imposing ritual. The general tenor of their life does not seem to have been affected by speculations about the world beyond. Of age, indeed, and of death, they had a horror proportional to their acute and sensitive enjoyment of life. But their natural impulse was to turn for consolation to the interests and achievements of the world they knew, and to endeavour to soothe by memories and hopes of deeds future and past the inevitable pains of failure and decay. End of chapter 1, section 11. Recording by Martin Geeson in Hazelmere, Surrey.